I think the lasting effects of the water crisis is the lack of trust that people have in government. And I don't know how or when that's going to change.
No peace! No pipe! No peace! No pipe! No peace! No peace!
Dawn Jones, a journalist at WJRT in Flint, reported and lived through the water crisis. Watching her community suffer felt surreal.
When I look back on that period, it's almost like, did that happen? And I think back to all of the bottled water, all of the fear that people had drinking the water, bathing in the water. And you never imagined that something like that could happen in the community where you live. So when you look back on it, it's almost like you can't believe that happened.
But it did happen, and it drastically changed how people lived.
I remember reporting on stories where people were lined up, and we're talking for blocks and blocks to get free bottled water. And when you go back and you look at the optic of that, it almost looked like something that you would see in a third world country, but not here in the U.S. and especially not here in the city of Flint, where I live, in the state of Michigan.
Poisoning the water supply for 100,000 people was something no one was ready for.
You know, I guess there was no playbook for being poisoned, so we're writing it as we go.
After years of government denial, water bottles, faucet filters, pipe replacement, government programs, and most of all, activism, Flint is now an example for cities across the country on how to deal with lead, both good and bad.
And when you look around the country, there are other cities like Flint. We don't know where the next city will be or what the next city will be, but there are other cities with aging infrastructure who may find themselves in this similar situation.
Chicago, Cleveland, New York, and even Benton Harbor, which is only 170 miles away from Flint, are all experiencing Flint-like problems. And according to the National Resources Defense Council, tens of millions of Americans are at risk of drinking lead-contaminated tap water. And other places are now having the same problem.
If it happens again, in a city 1,000 miles away from here, we hear about it. We're going to be triggered as a community because we know what that's like. We know what it's like to rely on bottled water. We know what it's like not to trust that we can safely shower or bathe or brush our teeth.
To address the issue, President Biden signed the Biden-Harris Lead Pipe and Paint Action Plan in 2021. Through this act, President Biden promised to replace every lead pipe in America before 2031.
Every person in this country deserves to be able to turn on a faucet and have clean drinking water. And through the infrastructure law, we're making historic investments to make sure that they can.
But that's easier said than done. After $100 million and years of replacing pipes throughout Flint, the city still has 5% of lead service lines still in use. When replacing service lines, you're replacing the pipes that connect a city's water main in the street all the way up to the individual homes. From there on, any lead inside the home is the homeowner's responsibility. To replace every lead service line in the country, the government has only promised $15 billion, but other estimates say it could take anywhere from $30 to $60 billion. Despite the hardships and work that still needs to be done, the community continues to pull together. Programs have been developed to connect families to health services, access to healthy foods to lessen the effect of lead poisoning, and help continue lifting families out of the ongoing poverty cycle.
Yeah, this bad thing happened in Flint, but so many community agencies, moms and dads, and our kids have stepped up and said, we are not going to be defined by this crisis. We are going to be defined by what we do next. And in that sense, yes, what happened in Flint, the water crisis, is the story of like this crime that was committed against our most vulnerable folks, but it's also this amazing story of resistance. It is an amazing story of how a community can come together to ensure that not just our kids have the brightest future possible, but that we make an impact across the nation.